Hello, in this video we're going to examine what happens when there are autonomous shocks to aggregate demand. We're going to be using our spreadsheet version of our short-run macro model, the ISRT-PC model. Our first set of experiments will involve autonomous shocks to aggregate demand. We might think of these as situations where the government chooses to spend more or less than normal. Under the baseline scenario, there are no shocks. Aggregate demand remains at its long-run level. However, under scenario alternative 1, or alt 1, there's an autonomous increase in aggregate demand. The government has chosen to spend more, perhaps because it's an election year. In our table that describes the results, you can see that both the output gap and inflation has increased. We've also assumed that the central bank has kept to its Taylor rule. It raises interest rates in real terms in order to restrain demand and inflation, to keep the economy from overheating. We can see that same result over here in the graph. The IS curve shifts from the solid red line to the dashed red line. It shifts along the solid blue RT curves. Thus we see that the output gap does increase, even though by raising interest rates the central bank has choked off some demand. Down below we see that the inflation rate rises as we move upward and to the right along the Phillips curve. Again, the central bank has limited the inflationary impact of the increase in aggregate demand by keeping on its policy rule and raising interest rates. Now, under alternative 2, there's an autonomous decrease to aggregate demand. The government has chosen to spend less, perhaps because it needs to tighten its belt. In our table that describes the results, you can see that both the output gap and the inflation rate have fallen. But the central bank has reduced real interest rates in order to keep output and inflation from falling too much. We can see that result over here in the graphs. The RT curve this time has shifted to the left from the red solid line to the red dotted line. We move downward and to the left along the RT curve. Thus we see that the output gap does decrease, even though by reducing interest rates, the central bank has triggered a little bit of extra demand. Down below, we see that the inflation rate falls as we move downward and to the left along the Phillips curve. Here, the central bank has limited the deflationary impact by keeping on its policy rule and reducing interest rates.